Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social. Oh, that was a tongue twister. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel fan site with plot synopsis and character bios for this story. So, we are continuing our run covering the X-Men, but using classic X-Men as the as what we're doing, because classic X-Men gives you stuff not included in the original that gives you a greater picture, more overview. It's supplemental material that was put in. Now, unfortunately, Arthur Adams is no longer the cover artist. And eventually we're going to get to Steve Lytle, who'll become the regular cover artist for a bit. But for now, we got Kerry Gamble, who'll do a couple of them here. Um, with Sunfire, if you remember. This is Sunfire's first appearance since leaving the X-Men. So he has Chris Claremont kind of bring him back. I do like this cover a lot. This is the original cover here. And here it kind of tells you why I use classic X-Men. Not only does it give you a synopsis of what the story is going to be, but there's a new page kind of featuring stuff to, like I said, supplemental material. But then that backup, this backup that is gonna we're gonna cover today is the reason I decided to do classic X-Men versus just using the regular X-Men. It really gives you that whole overview. This is all setting up now to the Dark Phoenix saga, and Chris Claremont is starting to say, all right, we're gonna just give more information, more background. I have covered every single issue of classic X-Men so far. Eventually we will run of supplemental material, and after that I will just start using regular X-Men. um so again, playlist if you wish to catch up. And so and once again, this backup is the whole reason that I did classic X-Men. So, X-Men 118 from 1978. And here's a bigger version of the cover. Dave Cockrum kind of returns as the inker, or I'm sorry, as the cover artist. He's done two in a row. So he did, I think John Byrne only did like three covers. It's kind of funny here. They're still going with Cockrum. I don't know whether or not people preferred Cockrum to John Byrne, but that's nuts. And no disrespect to Dave Cockrum, he's a solid artist, solid. But John Byrne is in Mount Rushmore of artists and writers. But if you were to put, and I don't, here's the thing, Mount Rushmore was only four. There's way too many artists and stuff to make a Mount Rushmore just four. But if you were to do a top 25, there's no way John Byrne's not on the top 10. So John Byrne is one of the absolute greatest. So I don't think Dave Cockrum would be in the top 25. So might be in the top 100, but not the top 25. So all right. So this would have been the front piece. So the cover would have been on the outer part. This would have been inside the cover. Continuing the frontispiece here, with an illustration here again by the same guys that did the cover. And there's the backup. So Tom Rozakowski is kind of becoming now the full-time letterer. We meet Mariko here. So, all right. So, here we go. We're pretty much picking up where we left off. The X-Men have gotten out of Antarctica, where they met Kazar and we're in the Savage Land and have made it to Japan. I love it. They're all wearing the same thing except Wolverine, who's wearing just his wife beaters on. And here's Nightcrawler. To me, because this is the X Men I grew up with, this is the X Men that I just always go to. Every time I draw, I always go with this X Men. So great double page here. And Colossus says, "Comrades, we are 10 kilometers from the shore, yet that fire is as hot as an open blast furnace. Ororo, is there nothing we can do?" And Storm says, no, my friend, I dare not even try. And the Banshee, pointing at it, says, "What do you think caused this?" And Wolverine is like, "An earthquake, probably," which is funny. He's looking at Cyclops, but Wolverine's the one that answers. "Matsunga, your family," and he says, "They live west of the city, Nightcrawler-san, in the heart of the firestorm. My father told me how terrible the firebombings of Tokyo was during the war, but I never believed." And so he yells here, "Kiroshi, Kiroshi." So, and here, of course, we get our credits. Love the title sequence here in Mount Fuji in the background. "Captain Hama, can you put us ashore? We can help." And he says, "Impossible, Cyclops. The harbor is littered with wreckage. My ship is desperately needed to evacuate refugees. I dare not risk it." And Cyclops says, "I understand. Nightcrawler, the north point looks clear of fire. Teleport over there and check it out." "On my way." And he goes, "Made it. Not long ago, I'd had no I'd had to make this jump in stages. This time, with training and practice, I did it nonstop. And I'm barely winded." And so Storm says, "Nightcrawler is waving, signaling all clear." "Are you sure, Storm?" "If I were not, I would have kept silent." So, Storm carries Colossus, and Banshee's got Wolverine and Cyclops here. So, it's funny. A few hurried minutes later, and Nightcrawler's like, "It's about time. The firestorm is moving. If we don't move fast, we'll be trapped here." "Don't worry, Kurt," says Storm. "I've summoned a wind. It will hold back the fire for a while." And Cyclops says, "That's all we need, Storm. We're heading for Shiro Yoshida's ancestral manor outside the city. We have no passports, no money, no way of even contacting Professor S. Like it or not, without Sunfire's help, we don't go home." And so we're kind of here showing the police here. And Storm here is thinking here, "Each child's face I see is like looking into a mirror. I looked like this once, wandering the streets of Cairo after Mama and Papa were killed." And so the hours pass, and crumpled inner city alleys slowly give way to the open parkland of the elusive residential district. The air is still blistering hot when they finally stop for a rest. The firestorm's still raging unchecked over a dozen miles away. And Storm says, "I heard a missionary once in Kenya. This looks much like his description of hell. Scott, are you all right? I heard you coughing." And Cyclops says, I swallowed too much smoke. Hey, all of a sudden the air smells sweeter. Thanks, Ororo." And Banshee says, "This may sound macabre, but I can't help wondering what happened to the people. This is a big city, but it looks almost deserted." And Wolverine is reading the newspaper and says, "The paper says everyone was evacuated." "What? Why?" "Early warning of a big quake." And Cyclops says, "An earthquake without a pre or aftershock? That doesn't make sense." And he says, "Look, Bub, all I know is what I read in the papers." And he says, "You read Japanese?" And he says, "Yep." "I didn't know." And Wolverine says, "You never asked." So this is the first time we all know that Wolverine reads Japanese. So, and Cyclops says, "My mistake. Next time I'll know better. I can't shake the feeling that what happened wasn't a natural disaster, which makes it vital we find Shiro and contact the professor. We've been out of reach too long." And so, but alas, at that moment, I love how it's like that little bug ship here. At that moment, some 20,000 miles above the Earth, a massive Imperial starship pulls out of its parking orbit and heads into deep space. carrying Lalanda, Princess Majestic of Shiara, and her Terran consort, Charles Xavier, home in triumph. There it is, Charles, in all its glory, your world, Earth. I've seen pictures, but the reality is much more beautiful. Captain's compliments, Majesty. We're preparing to warp, and he would prefer us to be in our quarters for the transition. Thank you, Lieutenant. I wonder, Lenandra, did I do the right thing leaving the Earth? Even though the X-Men are dead, they were still Jean, Warren, and Bobby, Hank. They have their own lives to lead, Charles. Let them be. We live, we love, that's all that matters. So here it just says, because he believes the X-Men are dead, and it's all covered. So we get our one supplemental page for this issue, showing Jean Grey on vacation. So from night to day, from the Pacific to the Aegean, from the Japanese islands to the Cyclades, where someone else is worried about getting home. So I believe this is near Greece. Captain, haven't you heard a word I said? And he says, I speak English pretty good, better, I bet, than you speak Greek. And so she speaks Greek here. Someone stole my bag, all my clothes, my money, my passport, everything. And the guy goes, very careless, young woman. Procedure is we notify American embassy, banks, relatives, whoever you like. They send replacement. How long does that take? And he says, as long as it takes. And he continues, and that child can be quite a while, and we'll see in the meanwhile. And he thinks here, how long your arrogance lasts when you're forced to sleep on the street and beg for food. And she's like, his thoughts, I have to control my reactions. I can't let him see him reading his thoughts. Perhaps I can go to Athens. And he says, impossible. You cannot travel without proper documents. Until then, you must stay put. Why is that not a surprise? Thank you, Captain, for your help. And he says, my pleasure. And then he falls because she uses her telekinetic to push him here. And so here they were talking about the Japanese earthquake here. And Jean smiles here. Nothing like telekinesis to teach nasty, overbearing slobs a lesson from time to time, but it feels so good. And this guy says, excuse me, I couldn't help overhearing your conversation there. If you are in some trouble, I should like very much to help. So this is going to continue in the backup story. It's a good one. So, all right. So we're in the Yoshidas here. Cyclops says, there it is, the Yoshida Ancestral Manor. They're expecting company. I've seen less hardware and bodies around Fort Knox. And Nightcrawler says, there are government limousines in the courtyard. It must be an important meeting. And Cyclops says, logical. Shiro's related to an influential family. Into costumes, people. They're about all we've got to establish our bona fides. Storm, whip us some cover. And Colossus just tears everything. He doesn't even take it off. He just tears it. Those guards look trigger happy. I'd rather not reveal ourselves till we're past them. Is this fog what you had in mind? And then, of course, they're like, holy cow, with the fog. As you can see the X-Men going through. And so Cyclops whispers, so far so good. We're in the outer court. And Wolverine says, follow your nose, boss. The main house is dead ahead. You heard the man, troops. And suddenly it gets bright. Intruder, stand where you are. Of course, what the flaming. So we sort of know who it's going to be. But great panel by Byrne. Or face the wrath of the protector of Japan, the lord of the living samurai, Sunfire. And Cyclops says, Sunfire, it's me, Cyclops. I'm here with the X-Men. We come in peace. And Storm says, Cyclops, the troops. And Wolverine takes out his claws. He ain't listening, bub. What are your orders, Sunfire-san? Call off your dog, Shiro. You know who we are. Do I? The X-Men, I remember, do not skulk like thieves in the night. Arrest them, Captain. And so here's Misty Knight. Leave him be, Captain. Prime Minister's order. Misty Knight, you dare. And she says, sure looks that way. Misty Knight, she's Jean's roommate. What is she doing here? Woman, you're a guest in my country. I'm not going to argue, Hotshot. Your premier wants the X-Men inside. Pronto. So, And so now we got an interlude here. Pull up closer. Pull up here. Any closer, and we'll hit the police lines. Activate all systems. Alert the assault team. We strike at midnight. So this is again near the Yashida where the X-Men are. So um and Cyclops is like, "Where's Wolverine? I feel like a fool just standing here. I need an interpreter. Wonder what Sunfire is raving about." And so here in Japanese here, the communique stated that Agarashima would be destroyed by an earthquake at 8 this morning. It was. All Japan is threatened, and I for one would welcome any aid we get. And so Sunfire's like, "No, Sama-fan, we need no American lady detectives like Colleen Wing, even if she is your niece, and we need no American superheroes. My power alone is sufficient to protect Nippon." And Colleen Wing says, "Ha!" And and Shira's like, "Mind your place, woman. This is my place, Buster. Like you, I am daimyo and samurai. Unlike you, I know my limitations. Grandstand plays won't save us, Shiro-san. Only our hope is teamwork." And Cyclops is like, "The heck with them. I'm going to find a phone." And so Colleen says, "So that's Scott Summer, huh? What a hunk. Pity Misty says he's spoken for." And so keep in mind, Misty Wing and Colleen Knight were part of Chris Claremont and John Byrne's run in Iron Fist. So Misty calls Danny here and says, "Things are getting pretty hairy, Tiger. I don't know when we'll clear this caper." And Iron Fist says, "I wish I could help, Misty, but Power Man and Iron Fist are neck deep in cases. Take care of yourself, okay? I miss you. I miss you too, Danny. Bye." "All yours, Scott." And he says, "Thanks. What do I say? Professor, Jean and Hank are dead. I still can't believe it. And why don't I feel anything for Jean? My God, I loved her." Um, and so the operator back then says you would call the operator to get you connected. Life before cell phones. I'm sorry, sir, but all the numbers you gave me are no longer in service. Operator, it must be some mistake. I'm afraid not. Service was discontinued at the request of Dr. Charles Xavier." And so Cyclops hangs up and he says, "That's insane." And so he continues, "Banshee, Professor X has shut down all the school phones, even the emergency direct line to Cerebro. We've got to get back there. Fine by me. Colleen's looking for ye. Says it's important." And so we got another interlude. 23:45 hours. Time to open up. "You're certain we can take Sunfire? He's no pushover." "Greg, old buddy, these babies can pulverize any mutant scum living without even working up a decent sweat." And so Wolverine is going in the main house here and says, "I was a punk kid first time I came to Japan, and the last time I left, I didn't figure on ever coming back. Man, I should have stayed in the savage land. I got no use for civilization. Too many rules, too many flaming people saying no. I want to cut loose every time I fight back, but I gotta hold it back. Uh-oh. Someone's in the garden. I better. Wow." And so, of course, this is Mariko, and says, "Is someone there?" I thought, "Oh, who are you? What do you want here?" she says, as I love this with the shadow of Wolverine looking all menacing. And he says, "Don't be frightened, please. I mean you no harm. Easy, fella, easy. Don't spook her." "I thought the garden would be empty. I like gardens and their solitude. I'm sorry I scared you. I'll go." And she says, "Oh no, please stay. The fault is mine. I am only a girl. I haven't the courage of a samurai. My cousin Shiro. You speak Japanese very well for an American." "I had good teachers. I'm not an American, though. I'm Canadian. I'm one of the X-Men. Shiro has spoken often of you with much respect. I'm Mariko. I'm called Wolverine." And Wolverine's, of course, thinking, "Lord, she's beautiful. That's the name?" "No, not really. Not between friends. My name is Lo," but then we don't finish it. Midnight hits. Suddenly, there's another earthquake here. "Hold on, Mariko. I'll get you out of here." And so, they ain't no easy way. The ground's jumping. It'll be like running across a floor full of marbles. And so, Wolverine the tree, she says, I see it, little one. There's nothing to worry about as he uh, shatters the tree. So, Wolverine cuts it with his claws here. Shielding Mariko with his body, Wolverine bulls his way through the crumbling manor house. He soon finds that the other X-Men have the same idea. So, Duck, Colleen, Storm, why didn't you warn us about the earthquake? I sense natural things, Cyclops. This earthquake is not natural. Some force made it happen. And Colossus says, how can that be? Who could command such power? By the White Wolf. And the wall, it's exploding. And you see this crackam. And so these are the mandroids, who I think are Avenger. Yep, from Avengers villains. And so, all right, people, the party's over. The boss wants your government types as his special guest, and he sent the mandroids to get you. We are the true sons of Nippon, monster. We will never surrender. We will fight. If any are to die in this place, it will be you. Sunfire, wait, I recognize those outfits. Wanna bet, Muty? He says, and shoots at Sunfire. So Cyclops barks orders. These combat suits were designed to sap the Avengers, but there's no way in heaven they could have been prepared to stop us. Hit 'em, X-Men, with everything you've got. So off goes the team. Great panel here. I'm telling you, Byrne and Claremont are just hitting the stride. So here comes Nightcrawler doing different moves to avoid getting shot. And so he's right here. Of course, between them, the other was going to shoot him. And he disappears. And so he ends up shooting his buddy. And so Colossus is like, good beginning, friend Kirk. I hope I can do as well. For all the help I have given the X-Men of late, I wonder why I even bothered to try. Everything I do seems to misfire. And he says, no, I missed him. Too bad, Tin Man. Now it's my turn. And they hit him. Oh, poor Colossus. Wolverine yells for him, and Cyclops tell him to leave him. They have to stop the mandroids first. Boss, that'll be a pleasure. So Wolverine's kind of starting to go in line. Bub, that reverse polarity magnetic zap may have worked against my steel buddy, but it don't rate diddly against my adamantium claws. So, one down, two to go. We've got them off balance. We've got to keep it that way. If I pulse my optic beam, set him up in a specific vibration pattern in the mandroid armor, and you can see him doing that. Banshee, go. So, and then comes the other one. My strike force is finished, mutant, but you'll pay for our defeat with your life. Shiro, my cousin, you're hurt. Let me help. Mariko, get away, he says, Sunfire. Too late, kid. Looks like I'm gonna scrag 2 for the price of 1. No, and so Sunfire fires. Is that the best you can do, Sonny? You're not hurting me. You're only making me stronger. As soon as the armor's thermocouple unit has absorbed this energy, you're a dead man. And suddenly it starts to rain. Freezing rain, actually. And it's Storm. And you can see his armor breaks apart. And these guys are like, they're all gone. Run for it, Jake. We've got to warn the boss. Watch it, Jake, a pothole. And here comes Colossus, who had just loved this panel. Just love it. And he just here grabs the bottom of the truck. And he carries them here. These are the last 2 of them, Cyclops. The authorities are examining their truck. Take them to the police van for interrogation. By the way, people, you did good tonight. There's hope for the X-Men yet. And Sunfire's like, stop fussing, Mariko. It's only a scratch. Hope for the X-Men, perhaps, but for Japan, none. What? Says Sunfire. A hologram emanating from the mandroid armor. I am Moses Magnum, master of the Magnum Force. This is my ultimatum, Prime Minister. You have 24 hours to claim me sole absolute ruler of your precious island nation, or at midnight tomorrow I will sink Japan. And so 'twas the night before Christmas. So this would normally conclude the issue, but of course we do have a backup story. First, some of the edits made, which was the green. This was in the original where everybody was sort of wearing blue. Um, but here they made everything green. So I guess that makes it, because this does look cleaner. And so, and here they added more dialogue to imply that Wolverine has visited Japan more than once. So little subtle things that make classic X-Men a little bit better. Again, the the coloring changes here. So we go to our backup story here. And so the title is A Vacation. So now it's about Jean Grey, still on that island, kind of going now to the beginning. And she's kind of being a tourist. And this kid pushes her. And of course, they take her bag. And so this guy helps her out, and she's all embarrassed. So that's where we go. That she goes to the police are no help, and this guy, of course, had offered to help. Um, so here we go. So that's kind of where you got to see the beginning, and then that page over there. So again here, so I couldn't help but overhearing your conversation in there. If you're in some trouble, I should like very much to help. Well, I'm not really sure. Would you consider being robbed of everything you possess some trouble? Anywhere but Carinos, probably so. But on this island, only the most minor of inconveniences. She says, do tell, I am Nikos. And she says, Jean Grey, would you do me the honor of joining me for lunch? Under the circumstances, my friend, how can I refuse? So, do you make a do you make a habit of rescuing stranded tourists? What better way of meeting lovely ladies, he says. You mean this is part of some dark, devious plot? Of course. However did you guess? Don't you know I can read minds? Lordy, I'm stuffed. My svelte figure is lost forever. Not from where I sit, he says. Is this what they mean by old world gallantry? Seriously, though, as soon as I've received the money, I'll wire it back and pay you. For the pleasure of your company is more than sufficient compensation. Honestly, you need a place to stay? It's turned into a lovely day, Nikos. Please don't spoil it. Of course, you can see her looking at him because, after all, he's like, this guy's just wants sex. I like John Bolton. He is a great. How he does the nose is how I do my noses. I saw this when I was young, and I'm like, that is so cool. So I started doing my noses with just putting the nostrils. That's it. I do it the same way still. Gene, you wound me to the quick with suspicions. The sad truth is, too many tourists have been ripped off. So, as a result, no cash, no room. And while sleeping under the stars may be romantic for a night, it can get very old very fast. All I offer is a room. All I ask is your friendship. Leave the rest to the fates, he says. And so, um, they go back and says, did we do good, mister? He says, splendid, here, and gives him cash. Now be off. I'll call if I need you. Look at all this money. I want my share. It's a fortune. So she was carrying money. Of course. This is mastermind. Everything else, traveler's checks, credit cards, passport, goes into the fire. Here you are, my darling Miss Gray, and here you'll stay until I'm ready to let you go. You gave me quite a turn when you spoke of reading minds, until I realized you were only joking, thanks to my power of illusion. So, of course, this is mastermind. So, the thoughts you perceive are as false as the face you see. Nikos is but the facade of Jason Wingard, the reality of your old foe mastermind. How sweet you look, my dear. Enjoy that innocence while it lasts. My hooks are in you now, though you know it not, and before long they'll be sunk deep. You'll never be rid of them. So this is great exposition for the Dark Phoenix saga. So classic X-Men just did such a good job filling in some stuff. Chris Claremont really outdid himself. I just find these stories, when you go through classic X-Men and you read everything through classic X-Men, you're like, wow, it really gives such a complete story. Um, which is why I decided classic X-Men was the way to go. And classic X-Men actually goes all the way to the end of the Dark Phoenix saga. I mean, it continued on, but it quit with the extra materials. So Mastermind, who is important in creating the Dark Phoenix, is who's responsible for Jean Grey being robbed. And in the smoke, the drawing of what is it, the Black Queen at that time that she was gonna become. We continue here. Then I'll play Pygmalion to your Galatia and transform you into a Black Queen worthy of the name. Real quick, I'm gonna go back. I love this in the color. Back then, you only had so many colors you could do, so it just, I don't know, it's kind of cool. So I wanted to comment on that, but then here a little bit more uh, toned. So it's morning now. Sleep well, magnificently. And he's like, I brought you some breakfast. Bless you. Yum. Hits the spot. Such food, such a cook. This is almost too good to be true. So then let me make things even better. Among my many talents, I'm a guide. If you wish, I'd love to show you the island, the secret hidden places, especially where tourists never go. That sounds wonderful, she says, but I've just one dress. Remember? I have a solution. The way your eyes are twinkling, chum, I'll just bet you do. So, good grief, you've got enough close to here to open a boutique. And he says, ladies come, ladies go, things get left behind. But there's one slight problem, Nikos. Not quite my style, not quite my size. And he says, so it's kind of a mini. He says, you look magnificent. And she goes, I feel like a bimbo. And whose fault is that? Or are you the one of those who believe that clothes really do make the woman? Dress like this, chump, and you tell me. So off they go to look at the sights. So they spend a lot of times here. They go snorkeling, and so eventually, of course, they end up kissing. So she pulls away and she says, Jean, what's wrong? And she says, I'm sorry, Nikos, I shouldn't have. But you did it. Sorry. So Nikos then says, but you did. It was what we wanted. We both want more. Jean, talk to me. Don't run away. So, and it says here, but she does. All the way home. And so he found her and says, they're celebrating the festival of Aphrodite, a night consecrated to love, when all cares and woes are cast away. And she says, it should be easy. Is it? Have I offended you, Jean? Done anything to hurt you? No, I was in love, and he left you. He died. People tell me that I shouldn't blame myself, that I couldn't have saved him. But deep down inside, I don't believe them. I should have found a way, but I failed. And it hurts more than I ever dreamed possible. So, Nikos continues, or Mastermind, or whatever. To mourn, that is natural, but to shut yourself away from life, to deny all feelings, where's the sense in that? If I don't feel, I can't be hurt. And he says, is the pain so awful it makes you turn your back on joy? I appreciate what you're trying to do, Nikos, but I'd really rather be left alone. Time's enough for that when you are dead. Come with me, Jean. Share the celebration. Laugh with me. Love with me. Live, he says. And so they go out to like a nightclub. They go dancing. And they go out. And of course we get a full moon, because why not? It's always a full moon. And so, was I right or was I right? How is it, Nikos? You know me better than I do myself. I am a guide. It is my job, in this case, my pleasure, to learn the lay of the land I traverse. With that knowledge, anything is possible. As I led your body to this temple mount, so I might lead your soul, who knows where. Part of this, I think, it just explains how Mastermind was able to get his clutches in her so quickly. So, the fact that he's been working on her for such a long time really creates a much a deeper uh, picture here. So, uh, Chris Claremont and John Byrne were really building something here. So he continues on saying romantic things. So they're like on top of the mountain. He's just explaining to her how gods must have felt, and um, she tells him, about mutants shouldn't have to hide and die and all that kind of stuff. And of course, he says mutants are modern gods, Gene. If you would but pick up the mantle. And so here you see him kind of working on the Dark Phoenix. She's like, yes, and all that stuff. Look at that with the power of the Phoenix. And then she's like, no, this isn't me. This is not what I want. Phoenix is a name, nothing more. I'm a human being. I'm Jean Grey. And she runs away. And so you can see the beginning of that transformation into the Dark Phoenix here. Um, and so we end here with Lord love a duck. Poor darling Psyche is more fragile than I imagined, which is more good fortune than I had hoped for. With Jean Grey's corruption comes my total victory over the X-Men. And make no mistake, my sweet beauty, you will be mine sooner than you suspect, and far more easily than you dream possible, because you see in your heart and soul you are already the Black Queen. And so next, Wolverine Hunted. So thus ends Classic X-Men number 24. But, real quick, this issue came with 2 pinups. This was from John Byrne, back from the 80s. I can't wait for Wolverine to get this costume. This is the costume I grew up with. And then a Paul Smith. This was a rejected cover. So, and then, of course, this would have been the backup cover. So, all right. Classic X-Men 24 by Chris Claremont, John Byrne, Kieran Doyer, and John Bolton. Like and subscribe. I do thank you for listening. Goodbye.